We wanted to know today specifically how the tariffs and sort of the latest developments, even some things that were said today, how it will specifically impact your grocery bill. Again, more movement today. So just to set it up a little bit for you, yesterday, President Trump paused the tariffs on some goods from Mexico and Canada temporarily until April 2nd. It was supposed to be 25% for Mexico and Canada, an additional 10% on China. And this is now the second time that things have been paused since these tariffs were announced at the beginning of February. Wednesday, so one day prior, the president temporarily exempted car manufacturers. He carved that out for them from the 25% tariff. And then after April 2nd, President Trump said yesterday that he will impose reciprocal tariffs on all U.S. trading partners after April 2nd. That leads us to today, and within just the last couple of hours, the president spoke from the Oval Office, called out Canada for their tariffs on the U.S. Specifically, he talked about dairy and lumber. And according to the president, Canada has been charging the U.S. 250% on tariffs on dairy for years. He said that he's going to reciprocate at the same level, and he might even start today. So, having said all of that, I want to bring in our guest, Pat Garofalo, president of the Minnesota Grocers Association, former representative for many years, well versed in all of this kind of stuff, and now in the grocery world. Thanks for joining us here, Pat. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Amy. Thanks for having me as a guest.
Yeah. So can I get your reaction to a couple of things? One, let's just let everybody know. Last time I talked to you, President Trump had just announced that these tariffs were going to be happening. This was about a month ago or so. Your general thoughts on tariffs?
Well, again, thanks for having me on. Tariffs are tax increases that raise the price of things. And in Minnesota, we sort of face a Bermuda Triangle of government intervention in terms of impacting food prices. The first thing is with Mexico, this is a time of year where we're importing a lot of fruits and vegetables because we don't have a harvest in America during the months of February and March. So we're really dependent on Mexico. So any tariffs on those are a direct increase in pricing for fruits and vegetables from Mexico. But in Minnesota, we get it a little bit worse because our state is so intertwined with the Canadian economy. And it's not just food, it's energy, particularly oil and electricity. And these are things that are used, they're ubiquitous in the entire Minnesota economy, whether it's the hundreds of thousands of barrels of oil that our refineries use in Minnesota that come from Canada, whether it's the electricity from the power lines that we've built to trade energy back and forth. So we get that twice as bad. And then the third leg of this sort of, like I said, Bermuda Triangle is that in the state of Minnesota, we've had tax increases on businesses and employers that have driven up the price. So for those who are concerned about cost, and it's not really, Amy, it's not a Republican or a Democratic issue, whether it's President Trump at the federal level or the Minnesota political party, the Democrats raising taxes on businesses, your local businesses are really getting hit from both sides when it comes to price increases. And you're seeing higher prices that will or could be going into effect directly as a result of government policies. Mm-hmm. You lay on top of that the fact that we've got this bird flu outbreak that's driving up the price of eggs. It's a pretty tough environment, and our members are working hard to keep costs down. But when you have government doing these things and you have some bad luck, it's a challenging situation, to say the least.
Yeah. And before we get into some specifics with the grocery industry, I just want to ask you a couple of follow-ups here. So you're a Republican. I don't know that I made that clear in your introduction, but you were a legislator for many, many years as a Republican. And so when I asked you about that was interesting to me that you had said that. I guess my question to you then is, according to the White House, they're playing the long game here. So they're saying that right now this might look chaotic and this might hurt, but in the long run, this is going to make the economy stronger. We're going to, do more here in the United States. We're going to give our businesses more business, make them more successful. So is there any, can you lean into that at all? Or do you just feel like it's what I'm seeing right now, I just can't see an upside to it?
Well, I think if the argument is that these threats of tariff increases are just those. They're threats at the negotiating table to get better access for American businesses to foreign markets. If they're a threat that results in better border security, so we have less poison in the forms of fentanyl coming into our country, if this is a threat that results in better border security in terms of keeping those who are crashing the border out, then there certainly is value on the side of those things. But if and when these tariffs go into effect, it will drive up the price of food. This will increase the costs, and no business is going to invest in the infrastructure of a business and make long-term permanent investments based purely on a tariff policy, because you can imagine you put at risk tens or hundreds of millions of dollars into a plant, and then tariff law changes. Well, now your business model is totally shot. And particularly when it comes to things, if you look at how Minnesota benefits from this trade, and we'll just use Canada as an example, they have large hydroelectric resources up there where we've invested in building power lines so we can get clean, reliable, affordable electricity from Canada. And we just simply do not have the geology or the water flow to generate hydroelectricity in Minnesota. But what we do is in southern Minnesota, we have a lot of wind towers. So when it's windy, when we have more wind energy than we can consume, we will send that energy up to Canada, and they'll turn off their dams, their hydroelectric dams, and they'll kind of use it as a battery. And then when the wind stops, they give us the electricity back by turning their dam on. And that sort of cooperation, that sort of partnership, it doesn't really help if you try to separate the American and Canadian economies from each other. The reason why they're integrated is because that when they're integrated together, we both do better. We win, they win. So separating our economy from Canada, from Minnesota's perspective, there may be anecdotes of individual stories, but the ultimate effect of separating those two economies is going to result in less efficiencies, higher prices, and fewer choices. And so certainly I support the Trump administration's efforts to get, again, better border security, to reduce the amount of drugs coming in, and to have better access for American producers in these foreign markets. But the tax increases in raising prices for American consumers should really be one of the last resorts, one of the last choices instead of one of the first ones.
Pat, has Canada been charging the U.S. 250% tariffs for the last several years? According to President Trump, that's true.
Yeah, so I know that tariff law is exceptionally complex about what tariffs apply to what situations. I do know that during his first term, President Trump renegotiated what was called NAFTA. That was the trade agreement between Mexico, Canada, and the United States. And at the time, he had praised it as one of the best trade deals the best trade deal the United States had ever had. So whether that applies to dairy products or auto, manufacturing, auto parts and stuff like that, I don't know the specifics of it. But certainly, if the threat of this is part of getting a better deal, that makes sense. But people need to understand that tariff increases do shoot American consumers in the foot. Got to make sure I say that right. Shoot themselves in the foot. I almost said the wrong word there. And that's the important thing, is that this stuff is extraordinarily complex, but having our economy from an agriculture perspective, from a livestock perspective, energy, whether that be oil or electricity, Minnesotans benefit from the trade relationship we have with Canada. Can it be and should it be better? Absolutely. But on these fronts, Canada is our ally. They're our friend. And raising prices on both sides of the border, we certainly have the ability to ruin each side's economy, but I don't think that's a good outcome. So I'm hoping that these conversations continue with whoever the new prime minister of Canada will be, with the Trump administration, and they can reach agreement on these items rather than seeing increased prices in your grocery stores. So
I guess let's just dive into that, and this might be a hard question to answer, because it's been so fluid. Even a couple of hours ago, there were some things said. But if I go to the grocery store tomorrow, where will I see higher prices that are as a result of higher tariffs?
So as I understand it now, and like you said, Amy, these things have been changing. I think they should have like a little Christmas ball above the White House that says the tariffs are on or the tariffs are off. There's different things floating around, but right now, as a result of the tariffs, I don't believe you would see any direct impact, particularly in the area of fruits and vegetables. It sounds like they've turned all those things off. If and when they turn them on or turn them back on, then you're going to see that flow through the supply chain in less than a week. You'll see increased prices. With regards to, and again, there's the tariffs on Mexico, the tariffs on Canada. As I understand it, with Canada, I do believe the energy tariffs have gone into effect, though. So every barrel of oil that's getting refined in Minnesota that's coming from Canada, I believe currently has a 10% tariff being put on it. The electricity that's coming across the border from Manitoba Hydro, I believe that electricity has gone up 10%. And that's like a hidden tax that's built into the infrastructure of all the things we make. And but again, I have to emphasize to both you and your viewers, this is changing on an hourly by hourly basis. So it very well could be saying that the information I'm sharing with you is outdated, or it could be 100% correct. Regardless, I'll take credit as being right either way.
Yeah, right. Okay, so if the impact on the consumer is extremely fluid right now, but you're saying in the very, very short term, this weekend, it's not like you're going to walk in and avocados are going to be, $8 a pop. What about the grocers themselves, the grocery stores? What effect might this have on them immediately, and then even in the next couple of weeks or so?
Yeah, well, the first thing is that it's uncertainty, right? So for your independent grocers, they're just like with the consumers who are watching this, they're along for the ride, right? And this is not. I know during the presidential campaign there was a lot of misinformation floating around about alleged price gouging. Your local grocery stores have a profit margin of less than 2%. They are really a high volume, low margin business. So any of these inputs, whether it's at the state level, if it's business taxes that are being increased, business mandates at the state level, if it's tariffs at the federal level, your local independent grocery stores, they're not in a position to absorb those costs. They're just going to take it and pass it on it goes up in the price of everything you buy, from bread to eggs, milk, or other items. And so your local grocery stores, they're working on a local level to try to keep prices affordable. And unfortunately, when the consumer comes in and sees the higher price, they kind of take it out on their local register or their local business owner. And those are the people who really see these higher prices first. But these, your local stores, your McAthuns, your Lunds and Byerlys, your Cubs, your Kowalskis, they're all seeing this firsthand, and they're just as much of a victim of the high prices as you, as individual consumers are. These prices are primarily being driven at both the state level and at the federal level by government policies.
Okay. We have so much we could ask you about. We didn't even get into eggs and the different layers there. Can we have you back on in I don't know, a week or so, because everything will be different and we'll have a whole new set of questions for you.
You could probably have me on the 2:00 hour and things would be different, Amy, right? But no, really quick on eggs though.
Yes,
the bad news is the bird flu has killed a lot of hens, reducing the supply of eggs. The good news is USDA has gotten preliminary approval for a vaccine that should limit the spread of this in the future. But in the short term, there is a limited supply. So hopefully we're able to address this through modern medicine.
All right, Pat, we'd love to check back in with you, especially before April 2nd, obviously, as things might change. But thank you so much.
I'd love that.
Thanks
for your
Amy.
Time.
Always appreciate it. Take care.